Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this new video in the series on Yii2 Basic. This is the third video and it's about configuring Yii2. So let's get started. As you may remember, we have our files all set up and they're in public HTML_HTML and Yii2, and we have our system is working, and as you can see we have the web page. I just happen to have the about page. Now as you can see here, it looks a bit strange with question marks and R's and percent signs and all this type of thing. And one of the things that we're going to do in part of this configuration is get rid of all of this and make it look a lot neater. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to tidy this up. Now, virtually everything I'm going to do today, except the work on the database, is optional. You don't have to do it. But if you do some of it, then you've got to do other parts. So I'll explain that. So if you decide that you don't want something this long, but you just want to see tutorial, for example, then we can do that. So first of all, we need to open Windows Explorer and navigate to XAMPP Apache Conf Extra. Now in there's a file called httpd_vhost.conf, and I'm going to open this. So we have it open in Windows Notepad. Now I've already made some changes to this for my own benefit, so you won't actually have this section at the bottom, but what you will have is all of this. And what we need to do is we need to copy one of them and then paste it in. I'm going to paste it at the bottom. Okay, and then we need to change it all to what we need. Now the server admin, you can leave that if you wish. Oh, by the way, the two hash characters, pound signs, are comments. So I'm going to, although I'm not going to change this, you can actually change it. So if you remember, we are in tutorial, whatever you called yours, you want to keep that. Now the document root you do need to change, and you need to point it to the tutorial like that. The server name you do need to change, and that will be tutorial. Now some people like to use a .local file to remind them that they are working locally and not on the server, so I've put in a server alias. You don't need to do the error logs. You can, but you would need to create a folder called logs in your folder so that you can do it, but that's not required. So that's the first part. We have the virtual host set up. So save. Now, so that's the virtual host saved. Now the next problem is that's not enough. We actually need now to change a folder which is a file which is a bit difficult to change because it's protected. So this is in Windows, System 32, drivers, etc, and it's called hosts. So I'm going to open this with Notepad++. And as you can see, I've already got a couple of entries in here for my other ones. So in here you want to add another entry. Okay, and here we would just type tutorial. Okay, if you want to do the server alias, you can also do that if you wish. Okay, so you now need to save this, and we're going to get an error when we try to save this. This is why I've done it in Notepad++. So we want to do it in administrator mode. Yes. Right, it seems to have opened on the other screen. So I've added tutorial into that, and I will now save it as we're in administrative mode. Okay, so now that's that done, we now need to create a database. Now this is actually quite important. So you want localhost, and then click on PHPMyAdmin, and you need to create a database, and I would recommend we call it tutorial. Now there's two ways to do that. You can click on database, type in the database name, and select UTF-8 General CI. Okay, and that's quite important to have the UTF-8 General CI, or if you wish, you can actually do it with an SQL command, and the command is create database if not exists, and then it's a backtick just there. The backtick is above the tab. Okay, tutorial, another backtick, so it's the one above the tab. Remember that. Default character set UTF-8 collate UTF-8 Unicode CI, and then just click go. And as you can see, it's worked, and we now have a database called tutorial, and there's nothing in it. But that's fine for now because we just wanted to create the database. So we can close PHPMyAdmin, and now we can go to NetBeans. So we now need to make some changes in NetBeans. The first thing we need to do is, of course, we need to change the project URL if you decided that you wanted to change the path. So click on source files, click on properties, run configuration, and remove the word localhost. So it's http ://tutorial/ and click on OK. Now this won't work just yet because normally you have to restart your computer for this to work. I'll just try and show you this. Object not found. Okay, so don't worry about that because it's not something we have to worry about. If we refresh that, it should work. Okay, so it's still pointing to the local host. Okay, so if you get that object not found, it's because you haven't restarted your system. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to actually create the information in config to tell them about the database. So if you come to the Yii2 config and then db.php, double click to open it, you'll see that there's some information in here already. You want to change the database name from Yii2 Basic to tutorial, or whatever you decided to call the database, and you need to put in the username and your password. Now if you haven't created a user, the user is root, and if you didn't create a password, it's empty. Okay, and save that. Right, next, I always recommend that we change part of the parameters. So we can close the DB and we can go to params, because this is actually used when we're sending emails and things like that. And so it's a good idea to change some of this. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this, and then I'll explain what I'm going to do. So I shall replace admin email with my email. I've included a support email. This we will use later on, okay, but it's a good idea to allow this, and it's set to 1 hour. And then you can put in a company name if you wish. Say I put my company name in, or you can just put your name in there. Okay, and we will activate all of this in a few minutes. So click on save, and we can close that. Next we need to come to web. Now this is the main configuration file, and this is where we need to do quite a lot of configuration. So the first thing we need to do is tell them what we're going to call the program. So we call it name, and then we need to give it a name, and of course it's tutorial, and you have to put the comma on the end. If you press Alt, Shift and F on your keyboard, you'll find that it formats your code for you very nicely. Okay, now that's the first part, so we now have a name for our program. You need to make sure that the cookie validation key is set. If not, you're going to get an error. This is quite important to have that set. Okay, when we start using sending mail, we will actually change this to false, but at the moment just leave it to true. Keep coming down. Okay, and the next thing you need to change is this URL manager, and this is what actually gives us the pretty URLs. So I'm just going to delete the two comment ones, and then press Alt, Shift and F again, and as you can see, we've got that set up. Now some people have a problem with show script name, and you may want to comment this out, set it to true, and what I'll do is I'll comment it, I'll leave it like this at the moment, but I'll show you what it does later on. Okay, the next thing, again, we can't actually run this because it's not going to work. We haven't done everything that's required. And so the next thing we need to do is create an htaccess file. That goes in public.html. So click on public.html, _HTML, new, and you want empty file. Now you might have to come down to other, but it's empty file that you want. Okay, and you want to call it .htaccess. Now it's very important that it starts with the dot. Okay, then htaccess, and then click on finish. Okay, as you can see, excuse me, it's empty. Now I'm actually going to copy and paste what is needed because there's quite a lot, and I will put this all in a gist for you so you can see it. So the first thing is we make sure that we're using UTF-8. Okay, we want it to follow symbolic links, but we want it to ignore, okay, directories that don't have indexes. Okay, we need to use, as I say, the UTF-8 for these types of files. We don't want people in directories or folders that don't have an index, so we'll automatically block them from that area. Okay, if they try and open htaccess or other files that they shouldn't have, we'll block that as well. 403 is forbidden, you're not allowed access. Okay, again, this here is for blocking access. And then finally, well, not quite finally, but this part here is for the pretty URLs. Now, there are some problems sometimes with the pretty URLs. If you go to the Yii site and read the manual, they say use this line here. Okay, but I've found that under certain circumstances that doesn't work. Okay, and I found that this one here works best, but it very much depends on which web server you're using as to which works best, and you may have to change these around. Again, I'm blocking access to backup files. Okay, and then this one is because a lot of ISPs and so on will actually cache content, and if you're using a database, which is what basically Yii does most of the time, then cached content is no use whatsoever, because it's not going to get the correct content if it's changed. So here I've told them that they can't play with it, they can't cache it, they can't do anything with it. And so what I've done is I've put a link so you can actually see why we've done it here. So we're going to save both those files, and now we are ready. The next thing we have to do is we need to come down to Views and then Layouts and main.php. Now this is the header and the footer of each page, and I'll explain more about what all these folders do a bit later on. But the first thing we need to do is we need to check that brand label is set to app name, app arrow name, okay, which it is, and then come down to footer, and we need to change this line here. So I'm just going to comment it out at the moment. It will appear, as I say, if you look at the source code, but it will be commented out. And I'm going to put in a new line, and I shall copy and paste that and just format everything nicely, or try to format it nicely. Yep. What happened there? I saw things moving. Okay, so if you remember, in params we set company here. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a copyright, so that's the copyright symbol there. Then I've gone into PHP and I've got the year, I've put a space, and then I've put the company name. Okay, so that this appears at the bottom. So we'll save that, and that's virtually all we need to do for now. Now we do need to restart the computer for this to work. It is a bit of a problem. I'm going to see, I shall just try restarting XAMPP and see if that's enough. But usually you have to restart the computer for this to work. Right, I've restarted XAMPP. That was what it looked like before. So let's run a new copy. And success! It works. So as you can see, it's now served from tutorial. Okay, it's served from tutorial. The title is tutorial, and you can see at the bottom it's got the copyright symbol, the date, and my company name. So everything is up and running, and we're all good to go. Let's just make sure everything works, and as you can see, this is what the pretty URLs do. Okay, so I've no longer got the question mark r equals about and so on. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment, like, share and subscribe, as that is very helpful for me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.